All right. So, on our podcast today, we're going to be talking about food addiction and specifically emotional eating. First, I just want to express a trigger warning for anyone that's going through a tough time with any of these topics, including disordered eating. And speakers today are going to introduce themselves, and I'll start. My name is Libby Gleason, and I'm on the cross-country team here at the University of Bowling Green. And I've struggled with disordered eating and emotional eating for a long time with being in the sport. And now today I'm going to be interviewed.
Hi, my name is Emily Warner. I am a person in recovery from eating disorders and substance use disorder. I have struggled with eating or disordered eating for most of my life. Since I was a little girl, I experienced a lot of trauma growing up, and I used it to cope, and it transferred into my adult life.
Hi, my name is Hannah Hall. I have not had experience with emotional eating, but my role today will be being the interviewer. And today is April 8th, 2022. And we will be discussing the topic of emotional eating.
And we are going to jump into the questions. So, Hannah, you can ask either of us.
So Libby, what is emotional eating to you?
When I think of emotional eating, I think for me personally, it can flip on like a switch very easily. It's kind of just if my mood changes or I get stressed out or if something bad happened, I just immediately go to food because it's like a immediate reward in a sense. And even though I know what the outcome is, so it's just your emotions are tied to it, and it's kind of like self-sabotage for me.
For me, emotional eating is kind of a way to use food to feel something other than how I'm feeling. Like I want to feel anything other than whatever emotion I have right now, whether it's stress, anxiety. I'll use food as like an instant pick me up, or I'll use food to procrastinate something that I'm anxious about. For instance, like writing a paper for school, I'll have a snack before I do that. And then it never really alleviates my emotion that I'm feeling. It just kind of shoves it down. So for me, emotional eating tends to turn into like binge eating cycles where I will continue to try to feel better through food instead of actually addressing my emotions.
I can relate to that as well.
Thank you for sharing that. So the next question is, why do you think emotional eating became a struggle for you?
For me, I think it started at a younger age with my family dynamic. My parents were very strict about what me and all of my siblings ate, and were quote unquote considered to be very healthy people and just very restrictive. And they were really conscious about how we looked and our weight. And then it made me really conscious about it. And then especially with starting my sport in middle school and getting really competitive in sports, my parents were really, they thought that they were helping me by monitoring everything I was eating, because there's kind of a stigma with the sport that you have to eat a certain way in order to perform. And I think that's really just what sparked all of my issues.
I feel like we're at the opposite end of the eating disorder spectrum, Libby. Like I think it may have been like for you like a restriction. For me, it was more like a binge. My eating disorder started when I was really little. both of my parents have mental health issues and addiction issues, and my house was very chaotic. There was a lot of yelling, there was a lot of screaming, there was just a lot of trauma. And I remember being a little kid and taking food into my room and just sitting like either on my floor or sometimes in my closet, and I would just eat to block out everything that was going on around me and the chaos, and I would just be in my little bubble of safety with my food. And that never really went away. I just continued to use food as a way to feel better throughout my entire life. And I don't know, that I feel like that's how it started. But both of my parents also are overweight and struggle with their weight. So there was no like portion sizes growing up. It was like, here's your, as a little girl, here's your adult size plate with your adult size portion, and we expect you to eat everything on your plate.
Yeah, my start of the struggle, I guess, it led into binge eating and emotional eating because once I moved out of the house and had to deal with the sport at a college level, that's what I turned to. Because I was like, no one's watching me. I could hide. No one saw anything. No one was telling me what to do. It was almost out of frustration as well, where I was like, I give up. I surrender. So it kind of went full circle.
Would you say it's in a way like a form of comfort?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even though I would feel guilty and awful after, or like kind of like shameful because I
Mhm.
found myself always hiding when I would do it, like no
Yeah.
one knew. But yeah.
Most definitely. I would feel guilt and shame the moment I was done eating. Like the moment I finished my Snickers bar, the moment I finished the chips, I would feel so guilty and so ashamed because I was already overweight and I knew this wasn't good for me. Then I would actually, because I felt so bad, I had worse emotions than when I started. I would go find another snack to try and make it better in that moment. And it was just a cycle that continued until ultimately I was like 100 pounds overweight at one point in my life.
Yeah. For me, it's been a struggle of trying to find a balance of how to handle it because, again, I'm training at a really high caliber, and I think it confuses my body because I'm binging, but I'm also like in the back of my head, I'm like, well, I'm about to go exercise a ton or tomorrow. And it's like has become an exercise issue too. And it's like connected. And it's just really put my body through the ringer because it's like binging, but still restricting because I'm like trying to get rid of it because I'm exercising more than like an average person out of like my own will most of the time. And it's gotten really messy. And I've gone through um reaching out for help and like talking to nutritionists and stuff like that, but I don't feel like people always understand the dynamic that it has with my sport because if you're not familiar with the sport, then it's kind of hard to help sometimes.
Does emotional eating have connections with any other struggles you face?
Most definitely. Like I said, I grew up emotional eating and binge eating to feel better. And then once I hit a certain age, I actually started cutting because food wasn't helping me as much. And so I would cut myself to feel better in that moment. And I did like that a little bit more because I was able to lose some weight because I wasn't eating as much. And then as I grew older, I actually started to experiment with drugs and alcohol and eventually became an addict. Um, I was went from using pills to dull my emotions to full blown heroin and smoking crack, and just my life spiraled out of control. And then when I finally found recovery, and I couldn't use drugs to numb my emotions anymore, I actually turned back to food because the drugs had allowed me to lose weight, especially the more amphetamine type drugs helped me to lose weight and not be hungry and not binge. And I really enjoyed that. But then when I couldn't do that anymore, I started to use food to self medicate again. and I gained a whole bunch of weight in recovery. So now I'm having to, 5 years into recovery for addiction, I'm having to learn how to eat healthily, feel my emotions, because for most of my adult life, I blocked out all of my emotions with substances and food at a younger age. Now I have to sit with my emotions, learn how to deal with them, and learn how to eat healthily to fuel my body in a way where I'm not in excess all of the time. And exercise actually has helped me to do that. It helps me in the morning, first thing, to set my day like on a positive note, to exercise, to, you know, I used to use exercise as a punishment for what I ate, and then I would try to starve myself the next day and work off all of the food that I ate. But now I try to frame exercise as like a celebration of what my body can do, and I'm doing this to help me, to help my body, to help my mental health, and it's just become my biggest really coping skill with the emotional eating. And if I still feel the urge to binge today, I try to make healthier choices and like binge eat some like celery and peanut butter, or like a low calorie vegetable where I can eat a lot of it and but it won't actually harm me as much as like eating a whole bag of potato chips. I have a whole array of other areas that I struggle with.
It's amazing. Thank you for sharing. It definitely connects with several parts for me in my life as well. I'd say when I realized that I was struggling with disordered eating, that was, I was extremely restrictive all of high school due to my mindset within my sport and my parents' control. And no, like everyone just congratulating me all the time. And I didn't think there was an issue until I had a serious injury. I had fractured my hip, and from just running, I wasn't doing anything besides running. And I basically went to the doctor, and they're like, "You're underweight. This isn't healthy. It's really hard to fracture your hip." I don't know if a lot of people know that, but um, it's usually just because your bones are basically decaying a little bit. And after that, when I wasn't allowed to exercise anymore, I spiraled, and I was like, oh my gosh, like my mind immediately went to, I'm gonna gain weight, I'm gonna blah blah blah, like all these things that are truly irrelevant, but just because of what I was told growing up, it's kind of what shaped that mindset. And from that moment, that's when the emotional and binge eating started, because I was just so like emotionally desperate for something. Like I didn't know how to control my feelings or what to do. And I was like, I just was a very drastic shift. I was just like, I give up. Like, I don't care. I'm just going to do whatever I want. I've never gotten to do that before. And so I would hide it from my parents. And I did end up gaining a healthy amount of weight back, which was necessary, but it felt devastating to me at the time. And so then I was finally healthy right before coming back to or starting college. And in that transition, I had been like severely suffering with depression and some anxiety. And I was being medicated for that for some part of high school, but I stopped taking it before college, and that really affected me. Um, I shouldn't have done that because I didn't tell anyone I stopped taking it. And from that point, even till now, I've been having to juggle to what works best with medication and other stuff like that. And it's been a roller coaster for sure.
You made me think about something though, Libby. When I started using drugs to cope and stopped using food, I lost a lot of weight. And people were commenting about how good I look and congratulating me on my weight
Yeah.
loss. So like in my brain, that reinforced this as like, this is a good thing to do, to lose weight and to be more socially accepted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I felt like everyone was just watching me because I was kind of known for, I don't want to say it, it sounds bad, known for my physique and my build, my athletic build, and like people were invested in my success in the sport, and I was just scared that people were going to be judging me. Like I cared way too much, and it
A
was
lot of
like,
pressure.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
How has emotional eating affected your day-to-day life?
My day-to-day life, my main focus is food. I think about food all day long. It is a struggle all day long. I think about what I'm gonna have for breakfast when I go to bed at night. I think about my next meal as soon as I'm finished with my first meal. And I have to make a conscious decision all day long to not give in to my emotional eatings. If I feel emotions, I have to think before I eat, like, am I hungry? Am I stressed? Am I, why do I want to eat right now? I just ate. Why do I want to eat again? I'm not actually like hungry. There's no hunger cues. It is a response to what's going on in my environment. Holidays are rough on me. Dinners, get-togethers, like last night actually we just had an award ceremony at the college, and they had a whole array of desserts and stuff, and I had to purposely plan to eat dinner before I came, so I knew that I wouldn't be hungry and tempted by those foods, because once I have one, it's almost like I black out, and that's my entire focus is on my next one and what I'm going to have and all of that. So even though I'm in recovery, it's still a day-to-day, minute-to-minute struggle for me.
I can also relate to that. I'd say food has controlled my day-to-day life. Like when I wake up, I'm immediately thinking about what I should do. And I struggle a lot with lunch and whether I should eat it or not, because the time that our practice is set up. And because sometimes we have practice at like noon or 1 or 2, and it makes it kind of hard sometimes. But then it's also in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, well, I just won't eat it. And then that's something I can skip. But then, like at night, I pay for that and it gets out of hand and stuff like that. And like I can share an example as well. My birthday was 2 days ago. And
Happy birthday.
thank you. And I do have a really big sweet tooth. That's just how I've always been. And I think a lot of my family is. And I think maybe that's why we were so restrictive, because we looked at that as a bad thing. And so everyone just like showered me with desserts and stuff like that. And that scares me and it makes me uncomfortable, because I'm like, I don't have any self-control.
Right.
Even if I don't want to eat it, I still do. And I don't know why that is, and I can eat a lot of it. And I don't know. It's really stressful, and that's been a struggle even these last few days. Or just like kind of will just ruin my whole day, honestly. So food can easily ruin my whole day. Like
Yep.
it has a very big control on me.
To go off your experiences, would you say that the presence of social media with advertisements would contribute or have an impact with emotional eating?
I definitely think so. I noticed that I follow a lot of people on Instagram who are working out and who are in fitness, because that's my goals right now, is to um, be more healthier and be more fit. And I tend to want to buy the supplements that they are showing, whether it's protein powder or pre-workout or protein bars or whatever they're promoting on their site. I feel like I need to have to then look like that and to perform like them. Or if they're making, like, healthier cookies or like protein pancakes, I feel like I need that too. So a lot of times if I catch myself scrolling, I have to stop because I'll start seeing all of those different foods. And even if it's not even, because I try to be plant-based too, so I follow a lot of like plant-based people on Instagram, and they'll share like healthy mac and cheese or vegan mac and cheese or whatever it is. I'll have to stop looking at it because I'll be hungry because I'm seeing it, not because I'm actually hungry.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think social media and marketing has kind of, in a way, screwed a lot of people over. And I feel like we're just now, or at least society is just now talking about how like diet culture and like fake images, Photoshop is like so relevant, and that like we shouldn't be normalizing it. And so like that's good, but it doesn't really get rid of all of the issues that has come from it. People are trying to recover, and also with being a cross country runner and a distance athlete, the image that's portrayed in it is so unhealthy. Like I've been in this sport for a long time, and it's really toxic, to be honest. Um, especially at the college level where everyone takes it very seriously, and then looking up to like professional level can spark a lot of anxiety for me and a lot of other runners that I know. Because it's just like, is that how I need to be in order to perform? Like, do I need to sacrifice my life and well-being? That's kind of what goes through our mind a lot of the time. And a lot of my fellow teammates and athletes that I know have turned to control over food because that's the only thing that they feel like they can control in the sport. So um, that's kind of where it's gotten messy for me. Like I'm just around a lot of people who are also struggling with it and trying to keep up with the image and stigma of a runner.
What is some advice you would give to someone who is dealing with emotional eating?
I would definitely say that you're not alone. When I was really struggling, I tried to hide it from everybody. Even my husband, I would binge eat and then stuff the food wrappers way down into the trash can so he wouldn't see that I ate all of those things. I would sneak eat on the way home from work, driving around, um, because I was so ashamed of it. And the advice that I would give is that you're not alone, you're not broken, and just work on some small things, like small changes. For me, the whole health action management program, I was introduced to that actually when I was in jail for substance abuse, but there's a section on healthy eating, and it really helped me because their program is about goal setting and taking nothing away. Like all of the goals have to be positively stated and measurable, and it's about taking nothing away. It's about incorporating a healthy habit or adding something positive to your life. So when I first started, I drank little to no water. So I would just add a water bottle, like drink one water bottle a day. And it could be instead of a pop, or I don't have to reduce my pop at all. And slowly from there, I incorporated more water and more vegetables and slowly changed my eating habits. And now today I drink absolutely zero pop um, at all. And I mostly eat vegetables. So it's like a complete change, but it was really, really slowly. And anytime before when I would try to tackle something like, okay, I'm not going to have any more cookies from today on, like, because I would do this all the time. And I'd be like, this time I'm serious. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to binge eat anymore. I'm not going to drink any more pop. I would always fail because I was focusing on the negative and what I wanted to take away. So focusing on the positive and adding something in was a lot easier for me than focusing on changing everything all at once.
Yeah, I would say my biggest advice is that you're not alone, but also don't be ashamed and really try to open up to someone to talk about it, because binge eating and emotional eating and food addiction can be, or really any type of addiction can be very isolating, because you want to hide, you don't want anyone to know. But for me, I need to talk to someone about whatever's going on in my life, or it'll just pile up and explode. I definitely need to communicate how I'm doing, or I'll turn to unhealthy habits. So that's my advice.
Definitely. I found that when I share my goals with other people in my life, like whether it's people I work with or my friends, like for instance, I don't want to eat sweets anymore, or I don't want to binge eat. And they're supportive of that. Then for like when my birthday came up this time, someone brought me a veggie tray and I was actually like, wow, you care. Because before that, they would, like you said, let me bring you a bunch of desserts and think they're helping you. And really it's causing you mental anguish and could be sabotaging your goals. So sharing what you're going through is definitely great advice.
Yeah. Emily, do you want to share? I know you spoke to me earlier. Do you want to share about some of your resources that you think would help anyone that's listening?
Yeah, when I was first starting to deal with this, like I had talked about going through the WHAM program, and that really helped. It focuses on 10 whole health and resiliency factors over your whole life. But part of that is healthy eating, restful sleep, and then physical activity instead of exercise, because they're trying to frame it in a positive mindset. So like any way you move your body physically is good. But this program helped me realize how everything is interconnected. Like we talk about human connection in there, and positive thinking and stuff like that. And even the sleep, I notice when I don't get adequate sleep, I crave carbs and sugar for that instant pick me up. So this program really helped me to delve within myself to kind of explore why I feel triggered to binge and some of the issues. I also started early on. I felt really alone. And because I am in recovery for substance use disorder, I'm familiar with the 12-step programs. So I started looking at Overeaters Anonymous, and there was no real in-person meetings around at the time. So I bought the books from Amazon. They have like a text, like a book for you to explore overeating. But then they also have a workbook where you can answer questions and kind of explore yourself and your triggers and your past traumas and stuff like that even more. And that really helped me as well. And then another book I found was really good at exploring like how your childhood, how you are brought up, your parent influences, and the science kind of behind addiction and relating it to food. It's called Food, the Good Girl's Drug, How to Stop Using Food to Control Your Feelings by Sunny C. Gold, the founder of healthygirl.org. Really helped me to, there's stories in there too, personal stories of people who I could relate to, like, oh my gosh, I did that too. And I was so ashamed of that, but it's not so bad because someone else did it. All of those things really helped me to kind of understand myself a little better and then work on being healthier and making better choices in the future.
Thank you again for sharing that.
And
Yeah.
if anyone is interested in doing the Whole Health Action Management Program, it is available at the Sandusky Artisans Recovery Community Center. Every 12 weeks, we go into another session, so it's constantly going. And there are online Overeaters Anonymous meetings that you can attend virtually.
Yeah. And in the notes of this podcast episode, we will link some of these resources below.
For our listeners, an affirmation to think about is to say that you are not alone and you are not defined by food.
I like that.
I think that ends our first episode here over emotional eating and food addiction. I hope everyone enjoyed, and thank you for everyone who helped out and spoke today.
Yay.